why do you actually want to be IOC president?
I think the movement is an extraordinary power for good. I think it can be better. I think there are things that we can do that capture the imagination of young people better. And why? I think I have the experience to do that. Everything I've done has shown that this is a movement I'm passionate about, and I've been involved since the age of 11.
How will things change in LA in 2028 if you do win the election in terms of transgender participation, DSD participation?
We would have a very clear policy that would be unambiguous, would be clear-cut, but would be co-curated with all those stakeholders that it is relevant to. The athletes, our sports scientists, the National Olympic Committees, the international federations, and they're telling me that they want to be part of that journey.
What would that clear policy look like? Would it reflect the World Athletics one?
Probably, and it's a policy that many international federations have now taken, including swimming.
So effectively no transgender women in any women's categories at LA 28?
We've been very clear in World Athletics that transgender athletes will not be competing in the female category at elite level.
Is the biggest challenge for you protecting the women's category? And one UN advisor said it's time for the return of sex testing. Is that the way forward?
Well, we've taken a lead at World Athletics, as you know, and I think for me the principle is very clear. You have to have a clear policy, and international federations look to the Olympic movement to help shape those policies. Yes, of course, individual federations must have the autonomy to make judgments that they see are in the best interest. But if you have a vacuum around this policy position, then you end up with some of the things that we witnessed in Paris.
We've seen so many secret deals where Olympics are awarded, the members don't really get a choice even.
Look, the members have got to be given the opportunity to shape the movement. And believe me, Rob, I sit with people that have got brains the size of planets, far smarter than me. You know, they're running large parts of international and global economies. They're cultural, iconic leaders. They're coaches, they're educators. You know, they are people that really have an ability to help us do that.
Do you want to end the secret deals behind the scenes, the gravy train in terms of these huge $900 per diems a day for IOC members?
I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of that. That's something that I'm assuming nothing, but clearly, you know, those are the things that any incoming president would want to be looking at.
Can you win an election now as an agitator? You called out the Russians on doping in a far more forceful way than others years ago. You've called for prize money for medalists at the Olympics, which the IOC has resisted. Does that make you too much of a disruptor to win an election?
I accept that I'm not an insider. I've probably never been an insider in anything that I've tended to do in my life. I feel strongly that this is a movement that is extraordinary. Its range and scope and scale. And really all I'm wanting to do is to make sure that we are really able, through the movement, to turbocharge, through sport, all the things that we hold dear. Sport is the language that everybody understands, and we've got to realise that we have a crucial asset. There's no sporting organisation better placed than the Olympic movement to do that.
The IOC said that your plan to introduce prize money will downgrade the Olympics, turn it into an elitist event. Do you still feel that is the right thing, that prize money should be awarded to medalists?
The athletes want a voice that is heard. They want to be recognised. They know, and I agree, we need to do more for their mental health and their welfare. And we need to help them, in a way, promote themselves. We need to be able to give them a more liberal landscape to use content and to be able to build their own profiles. They're the best at telling it.
But it is prize money for all medalists under a SEBCO presidency.
That would clearly have to be a discussion. And the one thing that I know, and I've done it time and time again, I've built teams to come to those conclusions. But we do need to think differently here. You know, the landscape for Olympic athletes is very different, certainly very different from than when I was competing. And it is really important we understand that there are challenges now in maintaining a place as a competitor in an Olympic sport that was never there before.
One of the big issues looming as well for the upcoming Olympics is Russia's participation. Now, if the war was to end or be frozen, as Donald Trump claims he can do, would that be enough for Russia to be readmitted, or would you stick by the position that Russia is in annexed Ukrainian territories?
If you remember, of course, World Athletics has had two very distinct issues to be dealing with. We had literally the egregious attack on the integrity of our sport through doping policies. We dealt with that, and part of that was to create the Athletic Integrity Unit. Our testing is now independent in the way that it should be, free from political interference and free from the interference maybe of even international federations and member federations. The difficulty here was that actually Russia had made that journey and had made it well. It took 7 years, but we were very confident that we had structures and systems in place that actually did safeguard the integrity. The Russia-Ukraine situation was a very different additional challenge, and World Athletics took the decision that it did. I don't know what the next few weeks, months holds, but clearly that is under review. We have a working group at World Athletics that is permanently monitoring that situation.
Do you think you'll come under pressure from Donald Trump? He will be president at LA 2028, and it'll be hard to resist. And how will you feel dealing with, Donald Trump? How it aligns with the IOC ideals in terms of women's rights?
I'm not entirely unused to dealing with politicians. I was one at a relatively modest level myself for a number of years. I understand the language. I understand the pressures. It's a landscape I'm comfortable in, but sport has to maintain its independence and its autonomy, and I've always fought my corner, as most people know, when it comes to those types of decisions.
There are many parts of the world that have never had the Olympics. Africa's never had it, the Middle East hasn't had it. Are you open to moving the dates of the Summer Olympics to be, say, in the Northern Hemisphere, winter dates in January, February, to accommodate them?
Rob, we have in the past. Sydney was later on in the year. Our own World Championships in Tokyo this year are later on in the year because of heat. If you have the welfare of the athletes at the centre, and that's got to be really acted upon, not just something that makes us feel good when we say it, then it is inevitable we are going to have to look at a reconfiguration of the global calendar.
What do you want to change about the International Olympic Committee and the presidency and its powers in particular?
Look, I've been involved effectively with the Olympic movement from the age of 11 when I first put a pair of running shoes on. I'm very privileged. I went to an Olympic Games. I've chaired a National Olympic Committee. I've seen it from the perspective of having won a bid and developed an Olympic Games with the extraordinary transformative power that we've seen here in East London. And I'm president of, arguably one of the biggest Olympic sports ever. So I see it through a number of lenses, but the one thing that I do know is for the movement to prosper, to remain secure and robust, it is going to have to be more open to fresh and new thinking. And that's not to dismiss what has gone before. It's an extraordinary movement that has had an impact on lives of millions of young people. But the world has changed. It's changed in terms of broadcast, it's changed in terms of our commercial realities, and it's changed in the way young people consume entertainment and see sport. And I want the movement to remember that it is fundamentally and primarily a sporting-based organisation. So it does have to reset around sport, because sport has the power to change lives.